Heat is a physical stress. It can cause equipment and machinery to break down. It can also stop the human body. In this program, we will discuss what is heat stress, including how your body absorbs and loses heat, the different types of heat disorders and their symptoms, preventive measures to reduce the potential hazards of heat, and first aid procedures to follow should symptoms occur. People love warm climates. We travel to them. We play in them. We relax in them. We control them inside. In fact, staying warm is a natural human instinct. Yet, too much heat puts stress on the body's cooling system. When heat is combined with other stresses, such as hard physical labor, loss of fluids, and fatigue, the potential for heat stress exists. The effects of heat stress can range from simple discomfort to life-threatening illnesses, such as heat stroke. You do not need to be in a warm tropical climate or hot desert environment to suffer the effects of heat stress. Heat stress disorders can occur in boiler rooms, confined spaces, during hazmat rescue operations, and other situations. In fact, preventive measures should be taken when the heat index, the temperature combined with relative humidity, reaches 80 degrees. In simple terms, heat stress is the strain placed on the body as it attempts to cope with excess internal heat. The main factors involved in causing heat stress include temperature, humidity, air movement, radiant temperature of the surroundings, the clothing being worn, and the physical activity being performed. Seldom does temperature alone cause heat stress, but more often it is a combination of the factors. To understand how heat stress occurs, let's look at how the body regulates its temperature. The body continuously works to maintain its core temperature at 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. The body can compensate for small upward or downward variations in temperature through the activation of a built-in thermoregulatory system, controlled by temperature sensors in the skin. When the body is cold, it will shiver to cause friction in the muscles to generate additional heat. When the body is hot, it increases its blood circulation to the skin so excess heat can escape through the skin. However, if the body's muscles are being used for physical activity, less blood is available to flow to the skin. Sweating is another means the body uses to release heat and control its core temperature. To better understand the causes of heat stress and preventive measures you can take, let's look at the different ways the body releases and absorbs heat. Nearly 60% of all normal body heat is lost by radiation. Radiation is the continuous emission of heat to nearby objects that have a cooler temperature. Hot surrounding environments and certain forms of protective clothing can reduce or eliminate the body's ability to relieve heat via radiation. Other forms of heat transfer that affect the amount of stress on the body include evaporation, convection, and conduction. When increased blood flow and radiation heat loss does not lower the core temperature, the body will produce sweat and use evaporation as a means of heat reduction. Heat is transferred to beads of sweat on the skin and removed by evaporation into the air. Sweating is only effective if humidity levels are low enough to permit evaporation and the fluids lost by the body are adequately replaced. Conduction is the transfer of heat away from the body by substances with which it is in direct contact with. Metal is an excellent heat conductor. Since heat transfers from hot to cold, objects warmer than 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit will transfer heat to the body. Convection heat loss occurs whenever air or water that has a temperature below that of the body comes into contact with the skin and subsequently moves away. The body heats the air when it comes in contact with it. The heat that warms the air is lost when the air moves away. Blowing on hot soup is an example of convection. Understanding how your body controls its internal temperature helps you recognize potential hazards and take proper preventive measures. As the temperature around you approaches your normal skin temperature, the task of cooling the body becomes much more difficult. Blood brought to the skin's surface cannot lose its heat. Evaporation of sweat then becomes the only effective way to cool the body. Remember, because blood is being pumped to the skin and internal liquids are being used to produce sweat, less blood and liquids are available to supply the active muscles and organs in the body. If the body cannot reduce its core temperature through increased blood flow and sweating, it will begin to store the heat. When the body begins storing heat, we run the risk of serious potential health hazards. Heat-related illnesses can range from heat rashes and sunburns to cramps, exhaustion, and heat stroke. Heat rashes, sunburns, and heat cramps can be painful and uncomfortable, but they are not life-threatening. Heat cramps are muscle spasms, usually in the arms, legs, and stomach. Heat cramps are caused by heavy sweating, which drains the body of salt and fluids. The best treatment for heat cramps is rest in a cool place and fluids. A normal diet usually provides the recommended amount of salt the body requires. Commercial fluids with electrolyte supplements can also be beneficial. Alcohol should never be consumed to replace lost body fluids. Heat exhaustion develops when the body loses more fluids than it takes in and causes the body's cooling system to start breaking down. Symptoms include heavy sweating, cool, moist skin, and a weak pulse. The victim can appear to be weak, clumsy, confused, or upset. When a coworker suffers the symptoms of heat exhaustion, move them to a cool or shaded area. Loosen or remove excess clothing. Provide the victim fluids to drink. Fan and spray the person with cold water. Heat exhaustion is a serious condition that can lead to heat stroke. Heat stroke occurs when the body's internal thermostat can no longer deal with the stress caused by heat. There may be little warning the crisis stage has been reached. The body ceases cooling activities, such as sweating, and begins storing the heat. Symptoms of heat stroke include a lack of sweating, hot, dry skin, even though the person may have been sweating earlier, a rise in body temperature up to 105 degrees and more. The person may be weak and confused and become dizzy, nauseated, and even unconscious. Time is critical to a heat stroke victim. Cool the person off immediately. Submerge them in water. Pour water on them. Fan them. Do what you have to do to cool the person down, but do it quickly. At the same time the victim is being cooled down, someone should call for medical attention. Have the person take sips of cool water if they are still conscious. Understanding and recognizing the causes and symptoms of heat stress disorders is an important element of heat stress safety, but the key is using preventive measures to reduce the hazard. Heat stress is a physical stress on the body. Not surprising, the frequency of accidents tends to rise as the temperature rises. As mentioned earlier, your physical performance and mental alertness may be reduced by the heat. Sweaty, slippery palms may cause your hands to slip. Safety glasses or goggles may fog up. These are all factors that contribute to an accident. By recognizing the fact that evaporation and radiation are the two primary means the body uses to cool itself, you can make decisions that enable you to reduce the adverse effects of heat stress. As with all potential hazards, engineering measures are the primary means of control. The most effective means is reducing the temperature of the work environment. When this is not feasible or possible, other measures such as shielding or ventilation may be used. Use a fan or open a window to increase air movement. The increased air movement helps remove heat from the body. The loss of fluids is a major contributor to heat illnesses. A person can lose 1.6 quarts of fluids in an hour through sweating. This is why it is important to drink plenty of liquids before, during, and after working in warm environments. Thirst is not a reliable indicator for the body's need for fluids. Health experts recommend 8 ounces of fluids for every 20 to 30 minutes of work being performed. Because sweating is an important cooling mechanism, the moisture vapor transport rating of material used for protective clothing should be considered when selecting and using PPE. Proper clothing can play a critical role in heat stress prevention. When hazard protection is not a factor, select clothing such as lightweight cotton that breathes. Light colors tend to reflect heat. Hats should be worn when working in sunlight. Additional preventive measures you can take to reduce your exposure include acclimating yourself when temperatures change from warm to hot. Gradually increase your exposure to warm temperatures. Most people are completely acclimated in 4 to 7 days. Take more frequent breaks when working in extreme temperatures or at the first sign of heat stress symptoms. If possible, alternate the tasks you perform. Schedule more physical tasks in the morning or evening when temperatures are cooler. Reduce manual labor by using mechanical assistance whenever possible. The best preventive measure is common sense and a healthy body. Excessive weight traps heat in your body and forces your heart and glands to work harder to dispose of it. Exercise and eat a healthy, balanced diet. Heat stress is an avoidable condition as long as you recognize the signs and take precautions. Remember, you do not need to be working outdoors or living in a warm climate to be exposed to the hazards of heat stress. When the heat index rises above 80 degrees, preventive measures need to be taken. Understand how your body controls its internal temperature and releases excess heat. Recognize and respect the symptoms of heat stress disorders. Take immediate action if you or a coworker develop heat cramps, heat exhaustion, or heat stroke. Use engineering controls whenever possible or feasible. Allow your body to acclimate to warm temperatures. Drink plenty of fluids before, during, and after working in hot environments. Do not rely on thirst as an indicator. By using the information and following the procedures presented in this program, you can prevent the effects of heat stress on your body.